You know, I was thinking as I was driving over here this morning, what a gift we have to find the teaching. It is such a gift. I think sometimes we just take gifts as an ordinary day-to-day natural experience, you know, and yet if we recognize that this gift is a gift we have earned, you know, people are not given a gift just because they are a human being. It's like we receive gifts usually on our birthday. You know, we've earned another year of life, and so we have a big celebration on that day, and we are given gifts. The teaching is such a gift. What put me in this frame of thinking was this morning, I just happened to cross on the internet, it came up on my cell phone, a video of a little girl. She must have been about 5 years old. She was in the hospital. She had all kinds of tubes in her. She had oxygen. She could hardly breathe. Her mom was there, her dad was there, and her grandma was there. And she kept saying, "Am I here? Am I back?" And her daddy said, "Yes, and I am your dad. And your name is," and she said her dad's name, "and you're my mom, right? And I'm back, right? I'm back here. I'm here, right?" She kept saying this over and over again. Well, she had left. And the joy of her being back in the body, being with her mom and dad and her nana, as she called her grandmother. If we could experience that joy upon awakening every morning, the joy of life, the joy of knowing that we have this gift called the teaching as a map, as a guideline to live our life and understand the purpose of life, we would not get caught up in the pain and suffering and sorrows and ups and downs of our day-to-day life. That would be secondary to this great gift that we have been given. So just listening to this little girl who, pure joy, and here she could hardly breathe. And she had all these tubes. She's in the bed, in the hospital. "I'm back, I'm here, am I here, am I here?" And her parents were so loving. I'm sitting here sobbing, right? And her mom and dad were just filled with the exultation of their joy of their child being back. And it's just, the joy for me was not just the moment of that family, but knowing what was going on, because the teaching teaches these things. So anyway, this morning I'm going to be talking about the wholeness and integration of a person. In the ageless wisdom writings, there are many words that have different connotations, different gears of understanding, different from mundane dictionary meanings. Sometimes we need to recognize and register in our minds the esoteric gear of vocabulary so that we can clearly understand what we are reading. So, for example, one of those words that I'm going to be talking about today, again, this is the third Sunday, is the personality. It is not unusual to hear someone say, "I have a powerful personality." I recall someone telling me a few months ago that very thing. And it reminded me that in The esoteric language, when someone says, I have a powerful personality, it means something very different. In the non-esoteric language, what we call the exoteric language, when someone says, I have a powerful personality, they characteristically mean that they are strong, or they can speak with great authority, or have a high position, or have the respect of many people, or some duties or responsibilities which they do exceptionally well. These are all exoteric meanings of having a powerful personality or a personality. But in esoteric language, the term personality means something very different. Esoterically, it's the rest of the talk this morning. It will be the esoteric approach. The personality is composed of 4 bodies: physical body, etheric body, emotional body, and our mental body. When these 3 bodies are working together as a whole, as one unit, it is then we have a personality. But, and this is an important but, this is not the case for many people. They have 3 or 4 bodies, yes, but these bodies are not coordinated. In other words, they are not integrated. So, see what the teaching is already telling us is that we have 4 bodies: physical body, etheric, emotional or astral, mental body. But if these bodies are not coordinated, if they are not integrated, that means they are not working together as one unit. And if they're not working together as one unit, then we are not yet a personality. We have to be integrated. These 4 bodies have to be integrated to have a personality. If our bodies are not coordinated, if they are not integrated, then we are not an individual. We must become an individual. The wisdom teaching explains this as the law of evolution. So the process of evolution that we experience in each incarnation is initially, and it takes many incarnations, to coordinate these 4 bodies into one unit, becoming integrated so that we can become an individual or a personality. As divine sparks, we are to progress, we are to evolve. The divine spark. What is the divine spark? The divine spark is understood as a spark of light. That is us, a spark of light. It is the unit of spiritual bliss, the highest state of manifested space, and it has fallen into matter. That's us. A divine spark that has fallen into matter. It is imperishable, and it is a portion of God, and it can be called also a drop of bliss. The divine spark is also called the spark of infinity. This is us. This is the teaching, talking about you, me, all of us. We are a spark of infinity, and we are going to bring this consciousness, this feeling, an experience of infinity into our daily life. As the spark progresses, as it evolves, it eventually becomes individualized. It becomes an individual, a developing personality. To become individualized. Now, this is the work. This is our life. Think about this in such a way that you can stand back from your situation. Maybe the situation you're going through right now, because your situation is part of this evolutionary process to become individualized. So to become individualized, the teaching says we must go through crises, through cycles of conflict, confusion, pain, and suffering. Then, following this cycle of pain and suffering, our spark evolves. Isn't this interesting? Our spark evolves and becomes individualized. Now, this is a turning point, becoming individualized, becoming an integrated personality, becoming an individual. It's at this point the spark begins to reorient, readjust himself, and now begins to learn the cooperation with the one life so that it can live a cooperative and harmonious life. Such harmony and cooperation is inspired by the cosmic magnet, the cosmic heart. This harmony and cooperation has been developed as a result of our divine spark experiencing pain and suffering for ages and ages. During this period, or during this very extensive cycle, our now individualized spark magnetically and consciously elects the way of harmony and cooperation for the good of all that exists. So we can see as a divine spark we are on an arduous path. Yes, but it is clearly understood, this process. Now, we're individualized. Now we're a personality. Now all these four bodies are working together as one unit. Is this wholeness? Not yet. Not all of our bodies are the same stage of evolution. And that makes sense when we take a closer look. Let's say that we have the four bodies. 4 people. See these 4 bodies as 4 people who are running. One of these people is at the 4-mile mark. Another one is at the 1-mile mark. This kind of situation means we still have a way to go. To have a wholesome, balanced personality, all 4 of our bodies must be approximately at the same stage of evolution and in the same rhythm. Now, what do I mean by this? Some people physically are 80 years old, but their mental body is 30 years old. Their emotional body is like a teenager. Their etheric body is very feeble or very strong. These kinds of situations cannot build a balanced personality. Such situations create lots of conflict within you because your physical body says, I'm really tired. And the emotional body says, you're not tired. Go out, run. And the mental body says, it's too late. The etheric body does not have any energy to pump into your body. When your four bodies are not integrated, you create lots of family problems, group problems, social problems. If your bodies are not integrated, it means they are not coordinated and geared to each other. It is so interesting. But it gives us insight into people's lives and nature, and thus tolerance and understanding of their behaviors, maybe even our own behaviors. So let us say if we have four separate non-coordinated bodies, then we have four different bosses controlling us. One boss, your mental body, promises, tomorrow I will help you. 10 minutes later, the emotional body says, I'm not going to help you. The physical body says, look, I'm tired. I'm going to lie down. I don't have any energy. At this point, you're in pretty bad shape. As we really think about this is a situation that indeed causes difficult relations. I read a story one day a few days ago actually, that really helps me understand the necessity of having a coordinated four-body nature. And this is how I kind of put it all together to better understand it. What I learned was first to visualize our personality as a unit, as a whole, like a musical instrument that needs to be tuned every single day. And the way to tune it is through aligning to higher virtues and putting those virtues like a tuning fork into all four bodies. So every morning upon awakening, to place the image of a virtue in your thinking and let that image tune all four bodies. This is so transforming. The minute something in you goes against that virtue, you're going to sense it, feel it, and it stops you ever so gently and reminds you you have a sour note in your bodies. You cannot, for example, transform your mental body unless you transform your thinking habits and cultivate higher virtues. So, especially at the start of each morning, put a virtue in your thoughts. Doing this will slowly change your thinking habits, and it will ripple throughout your whole mechanism. Beauty. Beauty is a good image to place in our thought field at the dawn of each day. There are others, but keep it simple, just one virtue. Promises. People who promise and then do not honor their promises are not yet personalities, because the person who promises is not the boss. Who is promising? Is it the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, or the etheric body? All these 4 bodies are elementals, and their positions are continuously changing. The physical body has an elemental. Each body has an elemental. If your elementals are of a low quality, you cannot build the personality, and certain of your expressions are very unbalanced and uncoordinated. If you are speaking with someone, wherever you are concentrated at that moment, you are talking in the name of that body. Emotionally, you are expressing yourself, but mentally, you do not express yourself because your mental body does not agree with what your emotional body wants. So it's kind of dizzying. And so in that situation, we cause problems in our relationships and in our health. It creates such an unbalanced situation. And this is why the Ageless Wisdom always emphasizes that we must develop harmoniously our physical, etheric, emotional, and mental bodies. We must develop them harmoniously by feeding them with the proper nourishment. It seems so simple to do, but it's becoming increasingly more difficult because the modern world, as technologically advanced as it is, physically and emotionally, it is not. It takes ages until we coordinate these 4 wills together, until we synchronize them. They must turn together nicely and harmonize with each other. Eventually, when they are harmonized, we say that now the personality is integrated. So integration is the process by which our human soul, in the light of the higher self, forms this physical, emotional, and mental and etheric bodies into a personality. The soul, the human soul, in the light of the higher self. Integration of the personality is when our physical body, etheric body, emotional body, mental body are now forming as one unit. It is when there is a right relationship between these parts of our human constitution or mechanism. Now, when we form ourselves into one unit, there is still a problem. For example, if someone hits you physically, you feel the pain emotionally and mentally because you're one unit. That is why some people who are advancing a little have more pain and suffering than others. If you are an average person, I know nobody thinks they are an average person. And of course, I know that's an exaggeration, but I'm trying to make a point, okay? If you are an average person not yet working on yourself, you too have problems. For example, let us say your emotional body is developed, but your other bodies are not. You cry all the time. If your mental body is overdeveloped, you never cry. See how they're not working together. But in such a situation, problems and shocks are going to come to your emotional body because that is your sensitive point. At this level, for an individual, their emotional body is a sensitive point. When problems hit their emotional body, that body takes those problems and shocks and keeps them contained to itself, contained in that emotional body. There is no coordination between the bodies, rather cleavages between them. So we have 4 units, not one, 4 units. And these 4 units are not coordinated and they are not synchronized with each other if you are not working on yourself. So if you are not working on yourself, any shock in any one of these bodies cannot be transferred to the other body or bodies simultaneously. Do you see? Do you understand? Nobody is moving their head up or down, or so I'm going to take that as a yes. If a personality has a problem, it is an etheric. If the personality has a problem, it is an etheric, physical, emotional, and mental problem. It is a complicated problem. But if you are not a personality, you have only 1 or 2 problems because you are only reacting. See, you are only reacting to that problem, to that pain, to that hindrance, to that shock with one of your bodies, but not all 4 together. As we develop, synchronization goes forward and we become an integrated personality. Our pain and suffering and worries increase. On the other hand, okay, on the other hand, joy also increases. Why is this? Our physical joy now is transferred to the emotional body and the mental body. Mental joys are transferred to our whole body. If you are not yet a personality, mentally you become really happy, but the physical and emotional bodies are not feeling anything. It's like, have you ever found yourself in a position you just want to take that person and shake them because you can't get into them and make them have this sense of overwhelming bliss or joy or even understanding? It's just like they're not there. It's so frustrating. So, once we're integrated, our pain and suffering and worries increase. When we become a personality, either we are destructive or we are constructive. Because to be a personality does not mean we are a good or bad person. We can be either. You can really be an evil person with a personality. You are very dominating. You can be very overbearing. because all your bodies are working together. You think and you feel and you do the three together. If you are not a personality, you can think, but you do not do it or you do not feel it. If you feel it, you do not think about it. That is why many, many millions of people have great ideas and plans, but they remain there unactualized. It's like I'll never forget 1,000,000 years ago. Well, not really. I came to begin to know what it was like 1,000,000 years ago. But a few years ago, a young man, I was doing, charts, astrology charts then, and a young man came in, and I always interviewed a new person, new to me, and I said, what do you want to be? What is your aim? What is your goal in life? I want to be a millionaire. I want to be rich. Now, this man was 32 years old. Okay, I had, how much do you have in your savings account? Well, I don't have a savings account. Okay, well, I get that. Savings account, particularly today, we earn 0.0001% interest in our savings. I said, so I get this, but the stock market, do you have a financial advisor? Are you taking classes how to build your income? Well, no. Well, why do you want to be a millionaire? So I don't have to work. Ah. So, I was shocked. He had this great idea, and you're so enthusiastic and so excited about it, but it's going to be unactualized. To be a millionaire, you have to start with something. So many, many millions of people have great ideas and plans, but they remain there unactualized. The emotional body does not react. The etheric body says, I don't want to do that. And the physical body says, it's too late. You are not yet coordinated. A fact. Our personality is built over 200 to 300 incarnations. This is the teaching. It is not automatic. You can know these things, but it does not make us a personality. It is not easy to build a personality, and that is why ancient schools and universities of the ageless wisdom had a plan. And this is the plan, we must not build personalities before building the virtues. As an esoteric astrologer, when I see the horoscope of a baby whose chart indicates that that little treasure can grow into a beautiful soul, into an exceptional spirit, I strongly urge the parents to start teaching that little one virtues, to start no later than 3 years of age. Virtues are not dogmatic. Virtues are heavenly. They are universal. They are unifying. They build the heart centers and create a true thinker. Virtues are manifestations of our real self through the levels, forms, relationships, and many responses of our purified personality. Each virtue manifests one facet of the diamond of their spark. As the cuts of the diamond make the diamond radiate different colors. All great ones, such as Hermes and Buddha and Zoroaster and Christ, put their emphasis on virtues and on those practices which release and develop virtues. It is see, this is not religion. Do you see that? This is way beyond religion. This is a path of life. Virtues that in their turn unfold and develop the etheric centers, enabling us to come in contact with a greater universe. That little girl, Mommy, I'm back. Am I back? Am I here? See? Virtues put us in contact with the cosmic etheric planes, namely the Buddhic, Atmic, and monadic and divine planes. A virtuous person is a person of power. If you build your personality, you can be very egocentric, dominating, and separative because you have a personality. It means that you have power in your hands. You become power crazy. A personality comes into being when a person passes through continuous difficulties, and as such develops at that time the physical, etheric, emotional, and mental bodies. An integrated personality is developed when we are dedicated to a vision. And in trying to actualize that vision, we go through many battles and sacrificial services. Now, this is really important to understand, because this is our life, as spiritual beings, this is our life. Once our integration, the integration of our four bodies take place, then the next step is alignment. When our physical, emotional, and mental bodies relate to the higher self, the transpersonal self, then these bodies have reached a refinement that reflects harmony and cooperation. In this cycle with higher energies with the fiery world. When the human soul is aligned with the higher self, its focus is no longer as a separate self. I hope you hear this. Those of you who are still battling your ego and vanity and sense of self-importance and, you're that island character. When the human soul is aligned with the higher self, its focus is no longer as a separate self, but is aligned with group and begins to integrate itself as a personality with the greater group, an earthly ashram. This is an advancement. You see how the dark forces have gotten in to say group is a cult? Hey, that is so wrong. Of course, there are groups that are cults, so we know that. But cults are made of uncoordinated bodies. They're not thinking. They're not integrated. They're not aligned. When the human soul is aligned with the higher self, its focus is no longer as a separate self. But I know I'm repeating, but this is important. But is aligned with the group and begins to integrate itself as a personality with the greater group, the earthly ashram. This is an advancement. When the individual aligns with the capital S soul of the group. So these are some of the ways a personality can be created. But the quality of the personality is determined by the motive that urges the person to surmount difficulties and achieve higher states of beingness. What is the next step? When your soul emancipates and controls these bodies, he integrates them totally, then the next step is soul infusion. So we have integration, we have alignment, and now we have soul infusion. And the next step is building the antakarana, which takes us into the spiritual triad. So the best way to integrate the personality is to work with the 3 or 4 bodies simultaneously. What is a sign of an integrated personality? An integrated personality is intelligent and charming and magnetic and radioactive and impressive and beautiful. A soul-infused personality is radioactive, totally radioactive and glorious and progressive and synthesizing and inclusive. When we are in the presence of a soul-infused personality, we know that they can see us. Even if we try to convince that person of how important we are and so forth, they can see us. And there is something in us that knows it but refuses to acknowledge it. What is that something that refuses to acknowledge it? It is our vanities and our egocentricity, our glamours and our illusions. And let me close with this. Not my nose, but an integrated personality is not built from the outside. It is the result of inner growth. It is a state of beingness on the path of our evolution. A soul-infused personality means that we are now absorbed in the light of the inner presence, and its light is radiating through us. There's so much to share, but we're not going to comprehend it. It's at this point, what we're sharing this morning, if we're not working on ourselves, if we're not even a personality, if we're not integrated and we're not aligned and we're not certainly soul infused, we're really brilliant people because we're listening and gaining knowledge. Well, I believe that someday all this knowledge is just going to break up into little cells, and these little cells are going to go throughout our entire body, and we're going to wake up and then, this sounds really familiar. I'm going to be this.